Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Welcome to r/EntitledParents. Now, a quick little announcement before I get into the video. Over the next couple of weeks, my uploads might be a little bit inconsistent or shorter than normal. I'm just having a bit of trouble recording, and hopefully I'll be back on track within the next 2-3 weeks. But with that said, let's get straight into this first post by user/FlippyIsKing. This happened maybe about a year ago, before the whole pandemic started. The weather had been nice, and I'd just gotten some sirloin steaks. I hadn't used my grill since the previous year, so I decided now would be a good time to try it out. For a few days, a group of construction workers had been busy working on a new house. It's built now, and it's pretty nice. Way too expensive for me though. But it had been hot and or rainy almost the entire duration of the build, and they were working their butts off the whole way through. So I decided to be nice, and after going over to the site, I yelled for them to come get some free food when they went on break. They were incredibly grateful. There were around 5 workers present, and 4 of them showed up for steak while the other passed. I had enough for everyone, including one for me, and we had a nice time chatting and getting to know one another. One was a veteran of the Marines back in the early 80s. He's friends with my grandma now. One was even related to the sheriff of our county. Anyway, amid the conversation, we heard an "excuse me" from the other side of the fence. My neighbor is this middle-aged woman with a super freaky son. He was this stoner influencer who loved to go on social media and post about his fetish for pot, and lived off his mother's paycheck every week while living on her couch. He was also in his mid-30s. There she was, on the other side of the fence. The entitled mother. My son was wondering if he can have some of your steak too. Sorry, I don't have any left. But you have enough for all of them? Yeah, I do. If he wanted some, he should have come earlier. No, you should have bought enough for everyone. Look, lady, this guy was being nice enough to cook. Don't you have work you should be doing? We're on lunch, Mom. She soon left in a huff, but not before shouting that she was calling the police. I was the only one who heard that, I think, so I asked the relative of the sheriff if there was really anything the police could arrest me for. Of course, he said no. In his words, there are no laws against not sharing. I asked if we should tell her that, and again said no. Again in his words, it would be the most fun they've had on the job ever since they started building that damn house. And a note, I actually did have an extra steak. I was saving it for later. Sure enough, after the construction workers went back to the site, who's to show up but a police officer? No lights, so it's not emergency, but he parked right outside the entitled mum's house. Both her and the grown kid walked out and greeted the police officer. I walked out on my own lawn and the entitled mother pointed straight at me. I can't quite remember everything she said, but she was accusing me of discrimination. Because I left her 30-ish-year-old little boy out of our little steak party. I swear, it was like a kindergarten lunch. The police officer obviously shook it off, warned her to not get the police involved in something so ridiculous again, and started to leave, but I said, "Wait, officer, are you hungry?" "Well, I haven't had lunch yet. Why?" "May I offer you a steak?" "I knew it! You do have more steak. I demand you give it to my son now!" "And I demand you both go back into your house before I arrest you for disturbing the peace and possibly harassment." But you can't do that. You can't do that. Tell him, grown kid." I just wanted some steak." "Officer, you have to do something about this. This man is performing a hate crime on my son." We both actually laughed. P said something along the lines of, "Have a good day," and I led him into my backyard. I had to give him the steak raw since he had to go back on his patrol. But we had a good laugh. The entitled mum and the grown kid finally went back into their house. And every time that I see them nowadays, she scowls at me, while her grown kid just pays no attention. I occasionally see that same officer from time to time, and every time I see him, he asks the same thing. "Did you remember to share today?" Look, I don't know what you guys pictured when this story was finishing, but I could just see the image of the police officer riding away in his car, chewing on like a raw steak, just like biting through it, trying to take it apart. maybe I'm just weird, but I feel like if a police officer like that stopped me, just like a bloody stake in his hand, blood dripping down his mouth, I'd be pretty scared. So possibly a good policing tactic. And here's our next post by user/ixythings. As much as I like this sub, I live in fear of having the opportunity to post here. And yet, here I am, with the realization that I have family that I can talk about in here. This is the most manipulative and ugly, literally ugly, classist, racist person I've ever met. I've worked in customer service and do politics in a totalitarian government. So it's safe to assume I've already seen the worst of the worst. She's married to my uncle. Let's call her Mary. Mary has pulled a lot of entitled stunts over the course of her life. I probably have over 100 stories that I can share that I know of. I don't talk to that part of the family because it's toxic as F. But there are a few family gatherings in which we meet. One of those happened yesterday, and I got reminded of her golden traits. So thought you would enjoy raging with me. Her entitlement shone yesterday as she tried to make herself the best friend of my current boss, who's married to my cousin and he's filthy rich. Brought a friend of hers who was supposed to be strictly quarantined because she's high risk. Tried to outshine the 1-month-old baby who we were all there to meet with her already grown-up daughters who we've all met. Tried to become the host of a party in a house that wasn't hers, going as far as to search and serve food from the refrigerator that wasn't designated to the party servings. And to top it all off, we were also there to pray for my cousin's mother who died last week. I don't participate in Christian stuff, but she was my favourite aunt and like a second mother to me. So the moment of appreciation was very important to me, to my cousin, my other aunt, and Mary's husband, his sister. Turns out, Mary decided that since we were there to remember the dead ones, it would be a nice thing to not only take the role of main person leading the prayers, but to also include a picture, a big one, of her mother that she pulled out of her purse and put in front of my aunt's picture, covering it almost completely. And start with a speech of how she missed her mother, who died 10 years ago, and literally just say rip about my aunt's death. But I'm not here today to tell you that story. Oh no, I was just venting. Since I have so much to tell and so little time, I figured it would be best if I started with the oldest tale I know of. The time she asked my mum to sell her my brother while she was 4 months pregnant. Good old Mary isn't fertile. She has 2 daughters. One was conceived in vitro and then introduced into her womb. The other one popped out of nowhere. Literally. We suspect she brought it out from someone, since she has a record of trying this, but whatever. Before having her first daughter, when I was around 10 years old, my mum broke the news to the family that she was pregnant. Yay! Mary wasn't happy with this, because she, as of then, had been trying for years with her husband and wasn't able to get pregnant. She always had this sort of competition with my mum and with everyone, because she has this need of being the best in everything. She must have the most money, have the most expensive clothes, be the most successful in her career, have the happiest marriage, and go to the most exotic places. But she wasn't the best. She was the only one with no children out of the 7 siblings of the family, my aunts and uncles. And she was also one of the oldest wives. So imagine her jealousy when the youngest one, directly below her husband, was going to have her second child, while her and her husband were still child-free. The horror. Her status. So she put my mother aside one day and told her, "You know it isn't fair that you get pregnant before us. It wasn't fair for you to have OP before your brother since he's older than you. But whatever. It can't be helped if OP was a broken or something. But you know, we've been trying for years now and we're just exhausted. And we're not comfortable with trying those artificial methods nor having a baby without our blood. So, since you're family, and we know you're not in a financial position to take care of another baby right now, what would you say if I offered to pay for everything pregnancy related, and after the baby is born, I would pay you an amount for keeping it as your brother's and I's baby?" Of course, my mum said no. She told me roughly how the proposition went years later, but only because I was the one that found out why she was being so pushy about buying my brother. Because this wasn't just a one-time thing. No. She tried constantly to convince my parents to sell them my brother throughout the next 5 months. And even for some months after he was born. You see, my father is a son of immigrants. He has a European bloodline and is very handsome. Mary also has a need of proving to everyone that she has royal blood. And aesthetics are everything to her. Hence, the need to show herself as the best of the best in every aspect of her life. And she will not hesitate to do anything to achieve her goal of being the perfect woman with the perfect life. This includes pretending that she has white genes. She doesn't. We live in a very heavily race-mixed country. She was born in one of the least developed states, in a humble family, in a small town, with only town people that have been working under the sun for generations, so all of them have dark skin. She married my uncle, who comes from a family that has lived in an island for generations, and who's almost the most dark-skinned of all of the siblings. There is no way she's going to have a baby who's white. But my mum is one of the most light-skinned between her siblings. And she married my dad, who has Italian and Polish genes. And I was born with very pale skin and smooth hair. Mary's and her husband's hair are what we describe as bad hair. Not in an offensive way, but that's how it's called here. It's basically super twisted and thick hair. There was a big chance my brother was going to be born European looking. You already know where this is going, right? One day, I was minding my own business while in their daughter's birthday party, and I happened to wander close to where Mary was talking with someone, didn't know her. And I heard how she openly complained about how her daughter is black, and how she wished she managed to convince my mum and dad to just give her their baby, because having a white son would have solved all of her problems. It's so hard to move up the stairs of society when you have a black family. And not only that, but having an ugly daughter isn't going to help either. There's no way she'll marry a rich man. How is she supposed to pay her retirement? There was more said, but I can't remember it all. And yes, my uncle approves of her behaviour and patronizes it. They, two dark-skinned people, believe in white supremacy. Oh, by the way, forgot to mention that the daughter that popped out of nowhere one day is white, and looks nothing like Mary nor her husband. Well, that's an interesting one, and I feel like the mum is more worried about her own retirement rather than her daughter's retirement. But I think this post will be the last one for today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to subscribe to the channel for edit videos 3 times every single week. But with that said, that is it from me. I hope you all enjoyed, and all I want to do is see you all here next time. See you later, guys.